Hi, welcome AIA-EE members and guests to our discussion today of the abstract titled Learning from the Experiences of Afghan Agricultural Scholars in the First Year of Graduate Studies Abroad. My name is Carmen Benson. I am a doctoral candidate at Texas A&M and formerly chief of party and advisor to the Grain Project at Michigan State. I'm joined by two of my co-authors today, but do want to recognize Mr. Razgul Dawar and Mr. Manish Jain, also co-authors, but that could not join for today's presentation. You will meet, however, Jessica Garrels, Senior Program Manager at Michigan State University, and the project's PI, Dr. Kurt Richter. And I'll hand it to Kurt now for introductions.
Thank you, Carmen. A central part of the Grain Project in Afghanistan was how do we do what we do better? This research is a result of our desire to better understand the impact of our training programs and help our scholars have a better educational process. You can see here the theory that we're based in. The theory is correct. However, the context of this program changed drastically in August of 2021 when Kabul fell to the Taliban and our India-based scholars became refugees who no longer have the capacity to return to the Afghan knowledge innovation system and to begin to help change and develop Afghan agriculture. However, as an introduction to the Grain Project, it was set up to improve the capacity for the Ministry of Agriculture and universities in Afghanistan to produce more wheat by selecting better wheat varieties, better tailored to Afghanistan's agroecological zones. It was funded by the United States Agency for International Development and was designed to build this capacity, but especially with female scholars, as evidenced in the photo on this slide. I'd like to turn it back over to Carmen to talk a bit more about the purpose of the Grain Project.
Thanks, Kurt. So the purpose of this evaluation was initially intended to improve the program itself, the GRAIN program, and our support to scholars in India and also those that had started their studies in Afghanistan as well. It's rooted in social learning theory, and so it evaluates components of the environment that impact students' experiences, their perceived and their actual academic success, and their ability to assimilate into the host universities and the broader community. The evaluation was implemented in 3 phases, beginning with a desk review of artifacts such as students' performance reports and meeting notes from various pause and reflection moments with students and professors and faculty throughout their program. Based on the review of that information, the team designed a Likert scale survey that was implemented online with all scholars, so 18 scholars that were Afghan but studying in India. And then a complementary survey was implemented with 21 professors and advisors, those that work most closely with the scholars. And it intended to measure 6 domains of the scholars' perceptions and experiences. And then we followed up the survey with semi-structured key informant interviews to dive deeper and collect qualitative data on student experiences and perceptions. And Jessica will walk us through some of the results from the study.
Thanks, Carmen. As Carmen mentioned, we asked questions about 3 broad topics. First, the recruitment and selection, settling in period, and then academic preparedness. Bulleted here, you've got some big takeaways, but we're going to drill down a little bit into each of these 3 specific topics. Next slide. So looking at the perceptions of recruitment and selection process, across all statements, 75% or more selected somewhat to strongly agree, suggesting that the announcement, application, and selection process was well planned and implemented. There was one question notably in which 25% selected somewhat to strongly disagree with this statement. The highest qualified applicants were selected for this opportunity. Insights revealed that some felt that the bar for English language and academic achievement should have been higher. 94% felt that the scholarship announcement successfully reached potential candidates, with 33% learning of it through the ministry website. Scholars did mention where else we might want to advertise, and also flagged some concerns about the reach into rural areas where Wi-Fi and connection issues are more common. Perceptions of the fairness were very positive, with 81% or more somewhat to strongly agreeing with statements about bias, merit, and equal opportunities. From feedback, we got some suggestions to open eligibility beyond ministry employees. That was the case for male applicants, that it was limited to ministry employees, but for female applicants, it was open to anyone just because of the few number of females employed in the ministry. Scholars also suggested we should work to ensure equal opportunity for all tribes and ethnicities. Next slide. This is looking at the settling in process and perception of level of ease upon arrival across 24 statements. The majority of scholars rated 15 of the statements easy to very easy, with top scores being contacting Grain with questions or problems, resolving problems with support from the Grain team, accessing medical facilities, and feeling safe in my new dorm or apartment. On the other hand, there were 9 that were rated as difficult to very difficult. And the top in this category included accessing medical insurance and finding food that suits my taste preferences. We did get some additional insights. For example, scholars found it easier to address and resolve problems when contacting the Grain team compared to contacting the program coordinator at the university. Over half found it difficult to find affordable housing, which is actually one of the reasons that Grain had encouraged all scholars to live in the dorms rather than search for their own apartments off campus. While scholars found it pretty easy to make new friends and culturally assimilate, a large majority did find it challenging to adjust to climate and also food, particularly noting heat and humidity, spiciness of local cuisine, and then also the time it took them to cook their own Afghan food instead. They had mixed feelings about accomplishing administrative tasks. Easier tasks included completing visa requirements and meeting with the advisor to select courses. And the more difficult ones included opening local bank accounts, enrolling in classes, and finding tutoring support services from the university. A full 81% found that benefiting from the medical insurance was difficult or very difficult. While we had purchased local health and accident insurance for the scholars, insights from them really revealed that expectations about coverage, exclusions for pre-existing conditions, and out-of-pocket expenses may have been the major sources of their frustration. Next slide. In terms of perceptions of preparedness, we talked to both scholars and advisors. Overall, university advisors found that Grain scholars were less prepared than Indian peers on all 9 aspects. The scholars had a more varied perspective. The majority of scholars felt better prepared than their peers on working and professional experience. The majority of scholars felt no noticeable difference with Indian peers in terms of English language skills and studying skills. I'll say that this finding on the English language skills is actually in sharp contrast to the advisor opinion. 74% of them reported that scholars were less prepared than their Indian peers in terms of English. They also stressed the need for stronger language skills as part of a pre-program preparation. And a majority of scholars felt less prepared than Indian peers in terms of writing skills, understanding of Indian academic culture, and test-taking skills. In fact, one advisor commented that performance in the first semester was particularly poor, and that may indicate that it took about a semester to get used to the new academic environment. Back to my colleagues.
Thank you, Jessica. And as we wrap up, we'll look at some of the implications and recommendations from these findings. Again, that can be applied when supporting Afghan students, but also with other international students, particularly those studying in a country other than their home country for the first time. So first is the importance of designing with your local partners a fair, transparent, and merit-based selection process. You heard from Jessica that the scholars felt that this was achieved in this program, but it was no small task, and it took time and resources to be very thoughtful in how that recruitment and selection process was implemented, so that the ministry and our broader stakeholder group really got behind and supported the program because they felt like it was merit-based. But it does underscore the importance also of understanding the differences in access to the internet, to social media, and other outlets that may differ between different ethnic groups, and particularly in this context for women, and ensuring that your recruitment and outreach reaches those outside of the urban centers. And then we point to some general recommendations around welcoming international students, including, understanding the importance of English language training and investing the resources in the beginning for that English language training to contribute to academic success. And then more broadly, looking at the student as a whole. So considering what's needed for academic success, but also for them and their families to feel comfortable in the community and to understand the campus culture. So consider community programs that could support accompanying families, cultural trainings or workshops or orientations to help students assimilate to the campus culture, which can be unique from country to country and campus to campus. And then particularly looking at welcoming students who are refugees from their home countries and have just gone through what is an unimaginable tragedy, is really considering the emotional support and family support that will be needed for the student's success and comfort at your institution. And with that, Kurt, do you want to close us out with a few final reflections and recommendations?
Yes, thank you, Carmen. Real quickly, what we've learned about the implications and recommendations from this work have not stopped at India. They've transferred to the United States and to Europe as the Afghans have become refugees, and now as Ukrainian citizens have also become refugees. Our points point towards areas that we need to think about as we, as universities, host highly skilled, highly educated individuals who are going through the unbelievably traumatic experience of evacuation and resettlement into a third country. So with that, we want to say thank you. Here is Carmen's email address. Feel free to reach out to her or anybody else in this panel if you have any questions or thoughts. Thank you.